I am delighted to be joined by the one and only Robert Dilts today. Thank you, Robert, for joining us. You're going to tell us a little bit about I hope you're going to tell us a little bit about your presentation. You are presenting live in person at the conference in May, and your topic is the state of the art, generative intelligence for human change. Please do explain more.
Okay. Well, first of all, I am not sure who's more excited about being there. I'm extremely excited about being there at this last opportunity for us to be together at the conference in person. Of course, there will be many, many, many other opportunities in the future, virtual, but I think this is kind of an important punctuation point, let's say, and a celebration. And so the idea of state of the art is kind of looking at where we have come so far, and then also kind of looking at, well, what lies ahead. And so that's what I thought would be an interesting thing to do, at least especially from the perspective of my own work, my own arc in the last 50 years of NLP, being involved in NLP and the developments of NLP. And so that, the notion of generative intelligence
Yeah.
is that NLP, of course, began from modeling psychotherapists like Milton Erickson, Virginia Satir, Fritz Perls, whose work was to help heal people, right, to get things back to normal again, in a way you could say. Whereas the idea of generativity, of course, is to go to something new, to say, well, what do we want to create or create more of or create better? And I think over the years, NLP has started with a lot of the techniques being, like treating phobias, treating trauma. For many people even today kind of still consider NLP to be a therapy, whereas actually it's of course much much more than that. It modeled therapy. It has developed many contributions to the area of therapy, but it's also made contributions to many many other areas. To education, to of course, to business and all these other areas where we are able to apply NLP to create many many new tools and new possibilities. So what I wanted to present here is, okay, this idea of generative intelligence for human change is how NLP and weaving together, certainly from my own perspective, weaving together different threads of developments that I have had that I think also
Mm.
parallel much of what has happened in NLP, in order to sort of show up. I could say it's a bit of a mosaic in a way, a bit of a tapestry of, where is NLP now, and then what are going to be some of our possible developments forward. So in this case, I'm going to be bringing together things like strategies of genius, and part of that, of course, I've been working on strategies of genius, almost since the beginning of NLP. When we wrote NLP Volume 1, that was kind of one of the big promises. The promises of NLP is that you would be able to go out and model what these, amazing people do, and then be able to apply it for ourselves. And so that's been, an area of my work for a long time. And I'm planning that by the conference, I'm hoping to have finished my Strategies of Genius Volume 4, which
Wow.
is all of the geniuses that I knew personally and who were involved in human change work. So Milton Erickson, Gregory Bateson, Moshe Feldenkrais, and Gabriel Roth, who's the creator of the Five Rhythms movement
Yeah.
practice. And I'm going to weave that together with things like sleight of mouth. So sleight of mouth, of course, being the verbal patterns by which we can reframe our experiences, which we, again, through which we can create new worlds. The title of my one of my latest books on sleight of mouth, Volume 2, is how words can change or create worlds. And bringing together sleight of mouth and patterns of genius is very interesting to do. And then, of course, there's been a number of new developments in terms of the levels of change
Yeah.
and how that weaves into this notion of how strategies of genius, sleight of mouth, interact to create change at the level of behavior, of capabilities, of values and beliefs, of course, of identity, and even beyond, and level of purpose. And and then one of the other key things that I want to be also weaving in here is some of the new developments in the areas of artificial intelligence, and how artificial intelligence can hopefully, or what they call generative AI, can also
Yeah.
help with generative human intelligence
Yeah.
as a kind of a partner. So so what I'm going to be presenting is sort of state of the art. What are some of the key things that I've been doing, by developing some of these areas, but also by combining them,
Mm.
and then also where does it look like we can go from here? Um, yeah, for example, I have a very interesting AI agent, they call them, which is a modeler, where you can put in text and it will break it down and analyze it, tell you what the toad is and which levels are involved and all these other things, which is it's a great tool, it's a great help. But then you could also say, and this is the kind of things we do with strategies of genius, is to say, oh, how could you use Mozart's strategy for composing music to write a book, or to lose weight, or to to grow a business or something like that.
Mm.
And I think that's, to me, has always been the exciting promise of NLP, that you find these differences that make a difference. You find these patterns that work, and then you can use them for all kinds of things. And that's the generative aspect of this.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the basic idea of what I want to be doing.
Can we just fast forward to the 17th of May now?
Yes.
I mean, this just sounds wonderful. And I almost hesitate to ask the question, what's fresh, innovative, and new that delegates will take away with them? Because it sounds like it will all be fresh, innovative,
Yeah.
and new.
I think for me, first of all, what I think will certainly be new is um, certainly many, many new ideas of how we can use NLP and apply it in the future. Um, obviously, I'm going to be sharing. We're going to do experiential things. We'll be having, opportunities for people to try some of these combinations and these strategies. Um, but I think, especially when we look at how the whole the whole notion of a strategy of genius and generative intelligence is create new things, and we are looking at a changing world, obviously, and it's not always changing for the better in places. And so one of the things that I think is going to be really important and useful that we'll be doing in the program is looking at where do we need to apply this generative intelligence? What are some of the new applications of NLP? So rather than just kind of looking at what NLP has already been used for, what are some of the new things that are emerging?
Yeah.
I always like to say, I think it's interesting, when I started the university, you have to choose what you major in or whatever. What I do for a living didn't exist yet, right? There was no NLP. So,
Yeah.
we just even there, we realized that things emerge that, there's things that are going to be here in a few years that do not exist now.
Yeah.
And we need to be ready for that. And so that's so that for me is sort of the focus I want to take in kind of looking to the future of where can we apply NLP in ways that can really make the biggest difference.
Wow. I'm beyond excited now.
Yes.
I'm so looking forward to this.
Yes.
I mean, is there any top tip that you would give to delegates so that they can prepare for attending your presentation?
Well, a couple of things that might be of interest. Certainly, if Strategies of Genius 4 is out by then, they could take a look at that. That would be a way to prepare.
Mm.
Or, I think looking at my book on the Sleight of Mouth 2, the
Yeah.
words, how words change worlds. I already am in that book also talking about the weaving in of Strategies of Genius and for Sleight of Mouth. So I think that could be very interesting for people to
Mm.
kind of look at. I think the other way to prepare is just to sort of think of what would you most like to. I want to mention that, and this was one of Cash's suggestions, is that certainly after I do some of the presentation, we're going to have a whole section for our Ask Robert Anything session. So maybe a good way to prepare is what would you want to ask Robert Dilts? What would be the thing that, if you know, if you had that opportunity, what would be if you could ask anything, what would that anything be? Maybe that's kind of the tip, the best way to prepare, so that rather than kind of, be too focused on any particular thing, what is it would be of value and of interest? I guess that would be my tip.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you for bringing in that focus. And it is a good thing to prepare,
Yes.
because I think once we're there, it'll suddenly all just disappear out the window and
Right.
whatever. So, I mean, finally, Robert, what's inspiring you to present at what will be the last in-person conference?
Well, I mean, what inspires me is that this is, like I said, I mean, this is a bit of history. I mean,
Mm.
first of all, yeah, I mean, the conference has been something that has been, I think, one of the great contributions to the field. I mean, it's the only real international conference that there has been for many, many years, and that has really brought together all of the schools of NLP, and to sort of be there to celebrate what it has brought, and of course to look ahead to where we go in the future in terms of virtual world. I think that's to me is probably the greatest honor I could have. So I'm very excited to be there to celebrate with people and to honor what you have done and what the conference has provided for so many years. I mean, it's really been the touchstone for me of truly what has been the most important developments in NLP. So
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, we are. It would be lovely to be there with you in person. You are
yes,
closing the conference for us,
yes,
so it will be one plenary session for all delegates,
yes.
closing the conference on Sunday, the 17th of May,
Mm.
and it will be truly an honour to have you there and presenting in that role at our final conference. So again, thank you so
Well,
much
it,
for
it is
agreeing this.
it is my honor. I can definitely tell you that. So I feel very touched and very honored, and I'm really looking forward to this. I do think this is the opportunity for people around the world, NLP people who are passionate about it, who have devoted their lives to it. This is the place to join, to see each other live and in person, and it's going to be, again, perhaps, I don't, I'm sure it's not the last time there will be opportunities for that, but I think this is a tremendous opportunity, and I'm looking forward to seeing as many of my colleagues and friends from around the world as I can. I think it's going to be very, very, very rich. So not only the presentations, but just the opportunity to be together.
Absolutely. Thank you, Robert. Thank you so much, and really looking forward to seeing you in May.
You're very, very welcome.